a desire to learn, a desire to be uncomfortable, because we're out there when it's cold, you're out there when it's hot. It's generally unpleasant most of the time. But if you love what you're doing and you love the craftsmanship and you like the trade, then it's all easy.
It's the pride of work and the almost like artisanal level craftsmanship that people seem to bring to the job.
Certainly. A lot of pride in the work they do. I had a lot of pride in the work I did, and whether it's going to be on display, like in a mechanical room later on, or it's going to be buried in sheetrock, we try to keep the same standard and the same craftsmanship to all of it, right? So whatever goes in the wall looks as good as anything that you're going to see outside the wall.
I'd like to welcome Eric Lothrop, Vice President at Benoure Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning, to Empowered Owners. Eric, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate you doing this. Gotten to, the pleasure of getting to know you a little bit over the last couple of years. And, it's been a real joy to get to know you. So I'm excited for the listeners to get to know you a little bit as well. So, I thought it'd be fun to start off with a curveball question. I know we just talked about prepping, and here's what we might get into, but okay. I didn't want to prep you for this one. What is your favorite project that you've ever worked on in your career, like at Benoure, before Benoure, but like a project that a Benoure might do? Like, what's your favorite that you've ever worked on, and why?
Curveball question right out of the gate. This is something. I would have to say my favorite project in all my years was the very last one I did in the field.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was the Farley residence, and it was super challenging. The architect had, full control of the project and really all the decisions made. But in general, the project just had such a great flow. The owners were fantastic. They cared so much about the project and the people who were involved in it, and everybody on that job just, top-notch camaraderie, which really produced a top-notch quality at the end of the day. I mean, guys really were super happy to be there. They liked the owners. It was just a great vibe the whole way through. So that was a great one to finish on because everybody was just, it was a high.
That's great. Amazing. That's a great answer. When was your last project? When was that project, your last in the field?
Oh, when I was still in the field. 2018, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I miss it. It's tough.
Yeah. So what about that project? You mentioned the camaraderie and like the homeowners being a big part of kind of what made that a great experience. Was there anything else about it too that, like, in terms of the technical thing, or was it more purely just like the experience of it itself?
Both. It was a pretty technical project, super high end, super high details, and very, very challenging just mechanically to get things around the building. It was another one of these systems where it's a residential home, but it's might as well be a commercial project with the amount of heating and cooling that was in it. Had a bunch of roof drains and a rooftop penthouse for equipment. I mean, it was just something different that we hadn't done. And then you factor in just everybody enjoying what they were doing so much and just wanting to be a part of that project. Made it very special.
That's cool. Why don't we take a step back and maybe you can share with everybody, like, what is it that you in particular focus on at Benoure, and what broadly does Benoure do from a services perspective?
So for me, I focus mostly on our residential new construction, and with that being primarily custom homes. And we at Benoure focus on everything that is HVAC related, plumbing, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, along with a whole lot of other, things. We're into service, we're into sheet metal, we're into, pretty much if your house needs it to function, we can pretty much provide it.
Yeah. And when did you, how long have you worked at Benoure?
I am coming up on 17 years.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
And then before you joined Benoure, how long were you in the trades, or like, how did you get into the trades? Let's go all the way back to the start.
Back to the start. So I I found my start early on in the trades in a industrial commercial setting. I took a job at for a company called Johnson Controls, which is a sub up here, which was IBM at the time, which is now Global Foundries. So totally industrial. I took a job as a HVAC tech, trying to learn heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. And with that, what we were doing PMs on equipment. We were helping the plumbing department out and the general just maintenance department. So we were doing everything from fixing door jams to fixing sinks and urinals, and then they were working on air handlers and steam boilers and cooling towers and pumps and vacuum pumps and air compressors. And that's where my interest in mechanicals really blossomed. And then from there, I left there. We had weird schedules where I was working a lot of 12-hour days and every Sunday. So it was time for a change. And I left there and got into the residential side of things.
And then that was before you ended up at Benoure. You spent some time getting into residential at other companies, or?
Yeah. Yep, I did. I went to a small residential company, locally owned. And I went from basically, a 2.5 million BTU boiler, which is a boiler big enough that you can climb inside of to work on, down to a small little residential boiler. And it was a pretty dramatic change, So I had a lot to learn there. And I didn't have my plumbing license at the time. So that's why I decided I need to get my licensing. So I got my journeyman's, I got my master's, I got my natural gas, and then the propane. Started that whole process there. And they were fantastic. They really wanted their techs to become educated, to become licensed. They really wanted them just to be inquisitive and ask questions and learn.
That sounds like that would have been really good training, to kind of be encouraged to do that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So at that point, were you feeling like, okay, this is my career and like, I'm feeling good about this, or like, how were you feeling and thinking about what it meant to build a career at that point?
I think I was just taking it all in at that point in time. It wasn't something that I ever set out to do. But I started to get the bug for it when I was up at IBM.
Interesting.
The mechanical and figuring out how things work, and just enjoying the whole HVAC experience. And then switching from there into the plumbing field, getting into the residential plumbing. It was now like new construction plumbing, right? So now we were actually building systems as opposed to repairing and fixing. And that's the spot where I really, really kind of fell in love with the trade. Was taking something from nothing other than a blueprint and maybe just some 2x and some walls, and creating, a system that's functional out of nothing, and just using the skills you've learned, the education given, and just putting it all together.
That's great. So what about that? Let's dig in a little more. So what about that process did you find particularly rewarding, versus, let's say, a maintenance, project or something?
Working with the hands and building something from nothing, I think was, what really inspired me, and I had a lot of great people that I worked with at the time. I had a lot of fantastic teachers, mentors. I worked under a lot of great master plumbers, learned a bunch of stuff from them. And ultimately, I have a lot of respect for all those guys that came before, that were able to patient enough to instill some wisdom and teach a little bit,
Yeah.
be patient for the young, dumb apprentice. But they were great. And I owe a lot to those people who came before us.
That's cool. I'm sure it's not called, the skilled trades for no reason. What makes a great, in your experience with those mentors, teachers back then, like, what do you think distinguishes the better teachers from those that weren't as effective at teaching a young, inexperienced apprentice?
Patience. The willingness to have patience, to give somebody a chance, and, accept that they may fail, but being willing to teach them. It's important to be somebody who can be taught as well. Hustle's important, especially in the trades. Guys want to see you moving. They want to see you working. They don't want to see you standing around. So, I brought all that at a young age. and wanted to just earn my way. I wanted to, take as much knowledge and get as much knowledge from the senior members as I could. And and here we are.
So that's really interesting what you just said. I think the teacher and the master, plumber, electrician, working with a student or an apprentice, and for that to be really successful, it takes patience from the teacher, but it also takes. How would you describe what it takes further, like from the student? You mentioned you have to be a good student, basically. Like, what is that?
Aptitude to learn, a desire to learn, a desire to be uncomfortable, because we're out there when it's cold. You're out there when it's hot. It's generally unpleasant most of the time. But if you love what you're doing and you love the craftsmanship and you like the trade, then it's all easy.
That's great. How did you end up at Benoure then?
So when I made the choice to come over here, I was really looking to get into new construction. The company I was working for was phasing their way out of new construction. And that's where I found my niche. That's where I found that's what I really wanted to pursue. And Benoure's was one of a few companies that were doing it and doing it well and had a good staff. And so there were a couple guys that came here from the company I was at before, came here prior to me, and they're still here. Well, one of them is. And it was great. They came in and they said, this is the place you want to be. And here we are, 17 years later. I came in I was not even a journeyman at the time, but I came in and I started roughing in houses.
Okay, so what's roughing in houses mean?
Oh, roughing in houses. So that is basically everything you don't get to see in a house behind sheetrock, right? So that's all the drainage, the waste, the venting, the water, gas lines, wiring, everything that goes in to make the house work that you don't get to see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember being struck by a comment that Brad Benoure mentioned at one point, which is he's never once, unclogged a toilet. And I think for a lot of people, they think plumbing, they think, that kind of work. And then what you just said is and you mentioned a word earlier, craftsmanship. That seems to me to be one of the main interesting differentiators for a company like Benoure. It's the pride of work and the almost artisanal level craftsmanship that people seem to bring to the job. Is that something you feel like is true for folks at Benoure?
Certainly. A lot of pride in the work they do. I had a lot of pride in the work I did. I know everybody's quite prideful of what they do, and they're always looking, whether it's going to be on display, like in a mechanical room later on, or it's going to be buried in sheetrock. We try to keep the same standard and the same craftsmanship to all of it, right? So whatever goes in the wall looks as good as anything that you're going to see outside of the wall. Just speaks to our level of attention to detail and our level of, I'm drawing a blank here.
Yeah, attention to detail and standards, the level of standard that everybody's bringing to it. Yeah.
Yep.
The quality.
Yep.
So for you, do you think that's now you've been at Benoure 17 years and you're no longer the one going in to do the install, and what are you doing now these days at Benoure?
Missing being the guy going in and installing it. No, a little bit, but in reality, I'm enjoying watching the younger guys come through and carry that torch. I'm overseeing a lot of that work currently now. We're estimating and bidding and design build is a lot of what we do, which is pretty fascinating too. It's fun. Again, you're taking just some lines on a paper and figuring out what kind of heating system, what kind of cooling, how we're going to route drainage and rain leaders and wiring and controls and just figuring out how we're going to make this thing function and perform at the end of the day through all our seasons here, right? Through our heating season, our cooling season. So that's my day-to-day now, is figuring all that out.
Project management, estimating, just design and build and then managing people and teaching, I assume. Now you're the teacher.
A lot of that still stays on the foremen who are out there, but yes,
sure.
I'm always here to, lend a helping hand.
Yeah. So what do you think it takes for a company like Benoure to, be successful and like continue that success over long periods of time? Because I think it's the trades and contracting business, it can be really tough, very competitive, challenging to find people. Like, in your experience, what are the things that like a company like Benoure needs to be good at to be like a sustainable, long-term successful business? Just a small little question for you there.
And quality, accountability, honesty,
Mm.
and dependability. And those, I think, are four things that we have always had in our wheelhouse. That's a strength here.
Mm.
Always putting the customer first, always trying to make it right, doing what we say we're going to do when we do it or when we're going to do it. And just quality, always quality,
That's
focusing
amazing.
on that all the time. Yeah.
That's awesome. What about advice you might give to somebody who's starting their career, at Benoure or another similar company? Like, what do they need to do to, eventually be where you're at today or something similar? Like, what's your advice to someone starting off a career in the trades?
Well, first of all, I think the career in the trades is fantastic. I think it's a great opportunity for growth. It's a great way to just challenge yourself and continue to, get educated and just, grow. There's so many different facets of this trade we're in, which you mentioned earlier, like Brad not having plumbed or plunged the toilet before. That's something we don't do. That really is it's just what people think of when they think of plumbers. They think of pants down low and the butt crack and button the closet. And in
I didn't say it. You did.
Yeah, that's why. But in reality, that's just not what it is. I never had a plunger on any of my trucks. That's just not what we do. And there are other facets of this business that you can do. You could be a welder. You could be just the gas guy. You could learn controls. You could be a service tech. It's endless. But for a young guy coming in, notice the grindstone, pay attention, listen to the guys who are willing to teach you, find the ones that are knowledgeable that are willing to teach you, and take the classes and pay attention to the classes. A lot of good information there.
Be a learner. And what you said earlier,
be a learner, a life learner too. Doesn't stop.
Yeah, what you said earlier struck me along those lines, which is the ability and willingness to be uncomfortable. You mentioned the weather, but also learning is not always comfortable. I mean, it's not fun to not know something and to feel a little bit under the pressure to learn. So I wonder if that being okay feeling a little bit uncomfortable has been an important trait for you and others who've been successful in your field.
I would imagine so.
Good. What about the experience for Benoure of being employee owned over the last year and a half? Anything come to mind?
No, I think it's been well embraced. We're moving into closing in on 2 years now. I think more people now are starting to embrace it and really understand what it is, and kind of just take this new path and create something with it. It's great.
That's awesome. All right. How about outside of work? What's Eric like to do, outside of work?
Outside of work. Well, I love to coach soccer. I love to run, and I love to ski, and family and friends. Those are my top 4 things.
Love it. And we're headed into Thanksgiving as we record this. How's the snow season looking to be this year for Vermont?
So far, quite good. Yeah, we're in the snowpack right now. J Peak is looking at somewhere around 90 inches to date.
Wow.
They got a solid base, probably the best opening they've ever had. Stowe's in the same way. So the Northeast is looking pretty good this year. Hoping it's going to be the same out west. We're taking another trip out west this year. So I hope that they're off to a good start as well.
That's awesome. So you mentioned coaching soccer. Like, what do you like about coaching soccer?
So I played all through my youth up through high school, and I never really had any desire to coach until there was, it was lacking in our community. We had a program already, but it was struggling with just involvement, So we decided to step up and see what we could do to help. So I started coaching when my son was, I think, 5. And I coached him all the way through 8th grade. And it was just awesome. I mean, it was great getting to be able to just, it's really self-serving to be out there, really, because I enjoyed it so much. But, just teaching them what it's like to be a teammate, and what it's like to be a good sport, and what it's like to work hard, and what it's like to earn something. And, just teaching them skills, it's just completely fulfilling. I'm not coaching currently, so that's one of my, it's one of my biggest regrets, but we'll hopefully get an opportunity here to coach again.
That's great. Last question for you. I think I understand that maybe you're also into volunteering. Like what about volunteer work do you enjoy doing, or is there anything in particular you like to do in terms of volunteering?
Most of my volunteering was spent with the soccer program. And that was, mowing fields and lining fields and helping with the jamborees and just all the extra things that come along with just coaching. Coaching in a small town isn't coaching. I mean, there's coaching soccer, and then there's everything else. Well, the grass is really tall. No one's mowing the lawn. You got to mow the lawn, line the fields, fix the nets.
All hands on deck.
Yeah, all hands on deck, but volunteering in general, my family's always been pretty important. My parents to this day are still heavily involved. Their latest passion is Vermont Adaptive, which is a program here that helps people with disabilities do all kinds of different activities, from skiing, kayaking, biking, whatever it may be. Yeah. So their passion is skiing as well. So they still volunteer and ski at 78 and 77.
Wow. That's amazing.
79 and 77. Yeah.
So they're both skiing and they're volunteering and helping out with
coaching.
And coaching. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like you have some amazing role models to live up to.
Yeah. Tall task.
All right, Eric, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming on Empowered Owners.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.